Okay, we are now going to demonstrate a couple different ways to get your patient into quadruped. So the first one we're going to show is going from side sitting. So at first I want you to look at how Miss Andrea is positioned here. Okay, she has one hand fully extended here, one arm. The other arm is right here on her leg. And then really important, I want you to notice her top leg is just in front of her bottom leg. And that, with her foot just in front, is going to be really important because it will prevent her legs from tangling up when we go into the quadruped position. So always, always, always make sure that that top leg is just in front of the bottom leg, okay? When going into quadruped, you're going to position yourself on the patient's involved side, okay? So if your patient has had a stroke where they have hemiparesis, positioning yourself on the involved side is important. However, if your patient has bilateral involvement, you may want to think about different positioning, okay? So, but we're going to think that Miss Andrea had a stroke affecting her right side, okay? So my hands are going to be mostly at the pelvis. When you're going into quadruped, the pelvis is the heaviest part of your body to get up into quadruped. So you'll see that's where my hands are going to go. If Miss Andrea had severe weakness or moderate weakness, I may want to have someone help me co-treat, so maybe an occupational therapist, or I could even have a caregiver, spouse, a tech as needed to kind of help prevent her upper extremity from blocking. I can also use an air cast in which you simply put the air cast over her upper extremity, blow it up, and that will kind of lock her into that extension so I can worry more about her pelvis, okay? So to go into quadruped, I'm gonna have her put her left hand there, right? Then my hands, as I said, are gonna go onto the pelvis. When I say 3, we're gonna lift her bottom up, okay? 1, 2, 3, and her bottom comes up. You'll see once she's in quadruped, my body and my pelvis are right next to her, and that's to give her the stability needed for this position, okay? So once again, that's from side sitting. If Miss Andrea gets tired in this position, one of the benefits is that I can simply lower her down on my lap like this, okay? This may look awkward, but what makes this a little bit beneficial is that if she's ready to go back up, it's less of a range of motion, okay? Also, when coming down from this position, if she comes onto my lap, then it's a little bit smoother of a transition down into side sitting, okay? So I can kind of ease her down to the mat that way, okay? The next way to get into quadruped that I'm going to show is from prone, okay? So we just showed you prone on elbow, so we would want your patient to essentially get onto prone on elbows, okay? So we're going to come here, we're going to help her come up, this arm here, this one here, okay? She's got pretty strong upper body, but we're still thinking that she had a stroke affecting her right side. But I'm not going to help her with her upper extremity because she can do that pretty much on her own, or I could get help as needed. So once again, I'm going to go towards her pelvis, okay, because that's the heaviest part, okay? So I'm going to come here. She's going to use her arms to push up while I'm here at the pelvis, and I'm going to give her an upward motion, okay? Think about your body mechanics in this position, okay? You don't want to have your legs fully extended, lifting with your arms like this. You want to think how to smartly use your body. So bending at your knees, keeping your back nice and straight, and we're going to stand, we're going to bring your bottom up, okay? 1, 2, 3, up. Okay, this is a beneficial position for someone, especially who has bilateral involvement, because I can help kind of manage here in this position, okay? If she needs to have more symmetrical weight bearing, I can control her in this position pretty easily, okay? So sometimes if you think about someone who's bilaterally involved, you may want to be in this orientation. Okay, I'm going to show you a way that you can get the ball under your patient to help support them if needed, okay, in quadruped. So if your patient has a hard time controlling all 4 upper extremities, you can make it a little bit easier by having a ball or a bench for them to go over in quadruped. And that just takes a little bit of the work off of them, okay? Quadruped's pretty hard because you are working all 4 extremities. So sometimes you need to start with a ball or a bench to kind of make it a little bit easier. And then once they get stronger, you can simply remove it, okay? So oftentimes you would have a tech or a caregiver be able to, or occupational therapist, whoever, to help you bring the ball under, okay? But we're gonna try it with that one, okay? So imagine that you've got your patient up into quadruped, doing from prone, okay? I'm gonna come here, I'm behind the patient. My knees are just behind her glutes, okay? I'm gonna bring my hands up over her shoulders right here, and I'm gonna bring her up into this tall kneel position. This position allows us to have some stability here, in which I can then bring the ball under her like this, okay? The nice thing about this position, if she starts to flex at her hips, I can bring her hips forward and keep her nice and stable. Once we have the ball here, she can simply walk her hands forward, down to the mat. I just help lower her, and then there we go, okay? Once in quadruped, you know a lot of different interventions to do in quadruped. You all have learned a lot from your movement science courses, bird, dog, all those different things. But what we really want to make sure you know too, that you may not have learned yet, would be potentially weight shifting, okay? So remember, Miss Andrea here had a stroke on her right side of her body. Oftentimes, they do not want to weight bear on their involved side. So this is a nice way to work on weight bearing on the right side. With the ball under her, she feels a little bit safer. It's a little bit easier to work on that weight shifting. You'll see I have one hand on her right upper extremity scapula, and then one hand here on her pelvis, and then my pelvis is right here beside her right lower extremity. So we can work on this weight shifting here, okay? I can work on some balance here. So I could have her reach her left upper extremity out in front of her, okay? And have her work on some balance here. That would once again force use and weight bearing onto her right upper extremity that is involved. And the same with her legs. So you can go ahead and lift your left leg up. Beautiful. Once again, that's encouraging weight bearing on her right involved lower extremity. I can work on some rhythmic stabilization. So if you remember rhythmic stabilization, it's a rotary component, okay? So I could give her some resistance here on her right scapula and in front of her left pelvis and say, hold this position, don't let me move you. So there's some rotary right there. And I can switch here and hold here, don't let me move you, okay? So you can work on some rhythmic stabilization. I can challenge her weight shift too as well. So I could give her some resistance here on this side and say, okay, push into my hand, push, 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 hold, hold, and push, 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 push. This would need to be for someone who has a fair amount of strength here, to where I'm not trying to keep them stable, but I'm really trying to progress them for strengthening, okay? So there's a lot of different interventions you can do in quadruped.